So entrepreneurs are often considered highly innovative, always come up with unique ideas for new businesses and products. And whilst the entrepreneur does not have to be personally innovative themselves to be successful, they do need to understand and manage the innovation process within their companies. The innovation process always starts with an idea, and a good idea should fulfill a need in the marketplace and have the potential to generate profit. The most successful and innovative companies tend to systematically encourage the development of ideas as a normal function of how they operate. It's simply what they do. In this session, we'll learn about and apply a process for creativity and innovation, which is designed to show you how to manage and minimise the risks that starting up a business involves, and also enable you to enhance your own employability skills through developing a deeper understanding of the critical areas of creativity and innovation. Now, in real terms, being entrepreneurial and innovative means being able to spot an opportunity and come up with a good idea to exploit that opportunity. So here we're going to explore how you can use creativity to generate ideas which are innovative, and by the end of the session you should be able to firstly provide a definition of creativity and innovation. You should also be able to describe the various stages in the innovation and product development process. And lastly, you should be able to apply the principles of the innovation process to develop an idea by means of practical exercises. Now, these definitions highlight some of the core principles of creativity and innovation. Creativity itself can be described as the production of new and useful ideas in any domain. Creativity stems from creative thinking skills, knowledge, and motivation. And innovation is a successful implementation of creative ideas within an organisation. The extent of innovation can be defined as disruptive or incremental. Successful innovation uses new technological knowledge and/or new market knowledge and employs this within a business model that can deliver a new product and/or service to customers who will hopefully purchase at a price that will provide profits. And product development is a process of designing, creating and marketing new products or services to benefit the customer. When looking at product development, we need to think firstly, where do good ideas come from? And it's been estimated that for every 11 ideas that enter the new product development process, only one of these will ever be successfully launched. New ideas are at a premium, and the more ideas you generate, the more you're likely to come up with something which is genuinely innovative. It's a myth that good ideas come from a single light bulb moment. Generally what happens is that people come up with good ideas because they've been thinking about a problem for a very long time before taking any action. The creative process itself can be very messy, and you can expect to generate and reject lots of ideas until you get to one that you think might work. It's also worth remembering that developing new products in a dynamic and fast-moving market like the technology sector is even harder, because a product which is technically feasible may not be economically viable. And also there may be any number of reasons why the product might not make it through the product development process. So now let's consider the following statements, and we need to think about the missing values here, and you might want to pause this video to give yourself a minute to reflect on the questions. So the following statistics highlight the extent of the challenges facing the entrepreneur in the fast-moving technology sector, where clearly a lot of innovation is to be found, but also the risk of failure is quite high. Only 1 in 6 million high-tech businesses make it to market. Less than 1% of business plans received by venture capitalists in this area get funding. And successful technology entrepreneurs typically own less than 4% of their own company by the time they have a fully formed business. And of these, 60% of technology companies, for a variety of reasons, end in bankruptcy. Now, good ideas do not have to be new ideas. There are a number of ways to build upon products or materials which already exist, while still coming up with something new and innovative which can lead to a profit-driven concept. So your task is to come up with an idea for a new product or service which is desirable, feasible and viable. To do this, we'll explore a process for innovation which is designed to facilitate the development of ideas into potential products. This process is highly practical. Now, essentially, the ability to be innovative with a product is only limited by our own imagination, but in order to get the most from this process, we need to apply a few ground rules. Firstly, don't take yourself too seriously. Get involved and make sure that you make a contribution. Now, lots of ideas are not good ideas. We need to come up with a lot of ideas in order to try and come up with something of value, but coming up with great ideas is very hard. If you come up with lots of ideas, then inevitably there'll probably be some good ideas in there, so try and come up with more rather than less. All ideas are valid, and sometimes at a glance an idea might seem ridiculous or what we call spaced out, but sometimes we can combine it with an idea that's a bit more ordinary, what we call grounded, and turn it into something more valuable, which we call blue sky. So any idea stays on the table. Try also to come up with wild ideas, or what we call spaced out. These generally have the potential to give you a competitive advantage. And lastly, try to resist the temptation to jump straight to the answer. What we're doing here is setting out a model or a process, and if you follow this process, your outcomes will be better. Now, this process has been developed by the Scottish Institute for Enterprise, and it provides a systematic approach based on the principles of design thinking. Using design thinking, we can increase both the impact of ideas and the likelihood that the idea can be commercialised. This process allows us to take an idea and develop into something which offers potential commercial value. And this is the model we'll be applying in this module. Design thinking puts the customer at the heart of the design process, which ensures that the final output is capable of satisfying the customer needs. Most people like to start with the final solution first, but we will begin by discovering and exploring, as this will give you more chance of coming up with an innovative idea. Remember though that the process itself is just as important as the ideas you come up with. So remember, successful entrepreneurs combine creativity, innovation and entrepreneurship in order to establish and manage a business which adds value to the customer. And a new company will usually start with an initial concept of how it will be structured to serve its customers, work with suppliers and evolve. As the company grows, the entrepreneur uncovers knowledge about the company's environment that may not have been obvious at the outset. And this new information must be fed into the company's plans to stimulate innovation, not only in products and services, but also in the very fabric of how the company will operate within a unique business model. Now, good ideas do not have to be completely new ideas, and as we've touched on before, usually they aren't new. There are a number of ways to build upon existing ideas, and here are a few examples of this using the example of a traditional coffee shop. Now, we can develop ideas as an extension or a redesign of an existing service, and for example, here we could introduce a mobile coffee cart. But we could also resegment and create an improved service. For example, we could have an express service till for customers in a hurry. We could also differentiate and market the product at a lower price, for example, introducing a budget coffee option, or we can add value to an existing product or service, such as introducing a loyalty scheme. We could also develop or redesign a new version of an existing product, for example, a premium or a luxury coffee option. Identifying which business ideas have real commercial potential is undoubtedly one of the most difficult challenges that any entrepreneur will face. Adopting a structured approach to developing a new product will help entrepreneurs to recognise a winning business concept when they see one. And there are various stages to this process. In phase one, we're thinking about how we seize the opportunity, and the basic objective here is to define the criteria that would make a business opportunity worthwhile to pursue. And we also need to look at the time horizons involved and evaluate any opportunity costs. In phase 2, we investigate the need through some simple market research. The first step is to identify, measure and document the need for the proposed product or service. And this means making a specific financial forecast of the actual potential and anticipated return of this product or service. We need to ask a number of preliminary questions here around need, niche, the competition, cost and manufacture, advertising and packaging, sales, transport and employees. And we need to start by collecting data, either primary or secondary data. We then need to think about how we design and execute a study to get more answers to our questions, and then we need to analyse the data. In phase 3, we need to determine the resources that we need and which all businesses must address in order to foster the venture's development, and these include personal contacts and networking opportunities, financial requirements and sources of technical skills. In phase 4, we need to develop some sort of plan. It could be a feasibility plan or a business plan, and what this document does is chart the current and future components of the business, and it should also determine the potential viability of the business and its application in selected markets. And also it should serve as a vehicle to obtain financing and personnel for the business. The plan itself is the backbone of the business, and this single document guides the entrepreneur at 3 critical junctures. It simplifies decision making during times of crisis, it's the roadmap at points of indecision, and it's also a motivational guide during setbacks or downturns. An extremely valuable outcome of preparing and writing a plan at this stage is identifying flaws and creating contingencies. And in the last phase, we need to think about how we actually manage the business. And here we're trying to deliver a complete solution, and we're also starting to cultivate more advanced resources. So having come up with an idea is not enough to launch a business. You also need to develop your idea to make it stronger, and there are 4 stages to this process, namely research, prototyping, market testing and development of the plan. Now, the plan itself should always be viewed as a work in process, as should any business model. And it's also worth considering the plan as a cycle which is continuous. The key elements of this cycle are learning, where we need to be open to new ideas and conduct research and speak to a diverse range of people to help you firm up your ideas. Then we need to experiment, where we apply the things that we've learned and try things out and make mistakes. We need to think about starting early and failing early, risking only what we can afford to lose, and in doing so we'll learn lots of things from the process. We also then need to reshape, and here we adapt and modify our idea based on what we've learned so far. But remember that innovation is not a single event. One should never stop innovating. You should always imagine that there's someone somewhere having the same idea as you, because there's a very real chance this is true. It's becoming more and more difficult to build a company around a single product idea without strong patent protection, and this is particularly true for consumer products that have a very short life cycle. Protected barriers must become part of any business model, whether via patents, trade secrets, uniqueness in the business model, or fast movement to the market to stay ahead of existing competitors in order to extend the product life cycle as long as possible. A product life cycle is a time that a product is able to command a high profit margin in the market before it becomes obsolete or develops intense competition, and there are a number of stages to this. So stage 1 is introduction, and as a product is introduced, there will usually be high costs in bringing it to market, but low sales resulting in initial losses, and this is perfectly normal. Stage 2 is growth, and if the market decides it wants the product, then sales increase and unit costs decrease because of economies of scale. The product starts to become profitable at sales above the break-even point. In stage 3, we consider maturity, and here profits gradually increase as both demand peaks and costs continue to reduce because of efficiencies. Eventually, competitors also enter the market with their own products in pursuit of these profits, and this increased competition leads eventually to a reduction in sales. In stage 4, we see decline, and here sales and profits reduce significantly as the product comes to the end of its life and customers predictably move to other products. The goal for any small business is to move the product through the introduction stage and into the growth stage as quickly as possible in order to benefit for as long as possible from the associated profits that are available in the maturity stage. It's also important that when your product is clearly in the decline stage and cannot be revived, that you discontinue it before it becomes loss-making. The product life cycle is most valuable when it's used to evaluate how well balanced the mix of a small business's products are. For example, if all of your products are in the decline stage of the life cycle, then you're going to run out of income from sales sooner or later. But if all of your products are in the introduction stage, you're probably going to be overextended initially and may well run out of cash. Ideally, you would want to have products at each stage of the life cycle so that one moves from maturity and into decline, and as it does so, another takes its place. The product life cycle is a simple model which cannot predict future sales, but which is important because it shows how a product has performed over its life so far and how successful that product has been at contributing to the profits of the business. Finally, if you use the product life cycle to ensure that you have products at different stages in the life cycle, you can be confident that you can enjoy returns not just today, but also in the future, and in doing so set your business free of worrying about financial constraints. Ultimately, what we're trying to establish here though is if your idea ultimately is doable, and this requires us to consider a number of things such as what exactly you're selling, what are the advantages, disadvantages of the product or service that you're offering, how is your product or service differentiated from everything else that's in the market, and do you have a product looking for a market or vice versa. We also need to think how you define your niche, how is the need being filled now, and who or what is the competition. Ideas can come from anywhere but often arise from insights from observing situations or people. This is what we call a hunch, and hunches are usually just a gut feel that an opportunity might potentially exist. And here are a few examples of this type of situation. First, we have the unexpected. Now, no one can predict the future, but what we can do is develop an ability to react quickly to changes in our environment. Plans often go wrong, and unexpected outcomes produce unexpected opportunities. Next, we need to think about things that are incongruous. Often the gap between what should happen and what does happen create frustration, which can be a powerful driver to find better ways of doing things. So you might be able to find inspiration from things which frustrate you in your environment, such as failing schools, child poverty, or poor patient care in hospitals. The inadequacy in underlying processes is often taken for granted, but it can be improved or changed. We can also think about changes in industry or market structure. Changes in the market often take everyone by surprise, such as advances in technology or major changes in legislation, and creative ideas which solve problems often are the only response to such change. In order to come up with a good idea, you need to apply your strengths and skills to problems and opportunities which you see in the outside world. Now, for this exercise, we've generated the hunch for you. So consider this general statement. There are many compelling reasons about why, as a nation, we should be more physically active. Now, hopefully you agree with this statement and also that it's a worthwhile area to investigate. But at this stage, we have no more than a feeling in our gut or a hunch that is potentially both a problem and an opportunity here. So we need to apply a systematic process to turn this into something of value. So from this hunch that we've provided, in your groups, come up with at least 15 ideas to encourage more people to exercise regularly. Now you can do this exercise individually and then pull your ideas online, or you can do this together online as a group. Either works well as long as you all contribute to this stage of the process. And again, don't try to come up with good ideas. Come up with lots of ideas, at least 15, but more would be better. And here you may get ideas from internal or external factors. This process is known as scanning, and by scanning we can find potential inspiration from things such as market trends, changes in technology, insight from friends and family, social trends, scientific process, or things that simply annoy you. So we have our hunch, which we think offers an opportunity, and we've generated some initial ideas. So where do we go from here? Well, now we need to strengthen our hunch by clustering our ideas into key themes, which we can then explore further. So group all the ideas you have into a number of key themes, and these themes could include things like people ideas, financial ideas, or ideas based in technology. From this, look at these ideas and decide whether of any of these ideas are basically the same product, or could they be combined to be features of the same product. It can be helpful here to think in terms of curing the customer's pain, and if you're able to come up with an idea that is able to do this, then you could have something quite valuable. Potential sources of pain include not having enough time, something being too difficult or too boring, or not being engaging, something requiring too much cash or too much resource. The cure to this pain is your product or service, and this should be capable of reducing the time lost, or reducing the level of difficulty, removing boredom by making the task fun, or reducing the cost or resource requirement. But we need to understand here that often the end user and the customer, as with the example shown here, are not always the same party. The individual actually using the product may not be the person buying the product itself, and to achieve success in the market, you must ensure that you identify both the customer and the end user, and that you're able to satisfy both with your product. We also need to understand the difference between want and need. Henry Ford is quoted as saying, "If I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they'd have said a faster horse." And his Model T Ford, manufactured from 1908 onwards, produced more power than 20 horses. It travelled at speeds of up to 45 miles an hour and sold over 16.5 million units. And to this day, it's one of the top selling cars of all time. So the message here is simple. Don't try to give customers what they want, give them what they need. When trying to sell your product, you need to consider that what customers say they want and what they need are not necessarily the same thing. Average suppliers will give customers only what they ask for, whereas innovative suppliers will anticipate customer needs. You need to think about why customers want particular features. I need to think about customer benefits and outcomes and how your product or service can deliver these. So whilst for this exercise we've generated the knowledge for you, that should not stop you from carrying out further deeper research of your own, and this is really essential in order to gain a good understanding of the market that you're looking at, in order that you can align your own product to this market. Ultimately, the more knowledge you generate, the more insight you will gain, and the stronger your hunch will become. And remember also that the final idea we generate here around exercise and encouraging people to do more does not need to be the idea you use for your group assignment. We're simply using this example to take you through the process of innovation. Having said that, however, if your final idea is good, you may want to use that for your feasibility study. So let's move on to the next stage of the innovation process, and this is observation. Observation allows you to gain valuable insight in order to develop your ideas further. In order to observe, you can watch a situation or someone doing a task, you can immerse yourself personally in a task, you can interview people or watch them to see how they meet individual everyday challenges. So watch this short video and use the observation worksheet provided to organise your insights. From what you've observed, consider what is good about the product, what is not so good about the product, And finally, how could the product be improved? So to develop your idea, you need to consider the following questions. What could exist that does not exist now? What could happen that does not happen now? What accomplishments could be made that weren't before? And what patterns of behaviour could be changed? Now, Osborne in 1953 developed a checklist designed to help with the development of ideas, and these approaches are still just as relevant today as they were then, as we're about to see. So take your idea and dig deeper by considering whether you can adapt. So we need to think about how we can take this product idea or plan. Can it be used as it is, or what other uses that it could be adapted to? Or could we modify, which means can we change the meaning, material, colour, shape or odour? Can we magnify the idea, which means can we add a new ingredient, make it longer, stronger, thicker, higher? Or can we minify the idea? Can the product be split up? Can we take something out, make it lighter, lower, shorter, for example? Can we substitute, which means who else, where else, or what else can we use, and other ingredients, raw materials, approaches that we could adopt? Alternatively, can we rearrange, which means can we interchange parts, use other patterns or layouts, and can we change positives and turn them into negatives? Can we reverse roles, turn something backwards or upside down? Then we need to think, can we combine things? Can we combine parts, units, ideas and blend or compromise, or take parts from other products and put them together in a different way? So think about your idea and discuss what this opportunity offers for you and for the customer, and whether any of these approaches will actually help you to come up with a better product. Now, here with the product, we need to think about the difference between features and benefits. Now, features are aspects of the products which do particular things, whereas benefits relate to the value which these features bring to the customer. In the example in this slide, one feature of this kettle is the water level indicator, which means that the user can see at a glance whether the kettle needs to be refilled or not. The benefits of this include time saved, albeit a very small amount of time, but there's also a safety consideration in that the water level indicator reduces the risk that the user can boil the kettle dry if they fail to spot that the kettle is empty before they switch it on. The value of this feature is clear, and therefore this particular feature is now the norm on most modern kettles. You also need to consider who you're designing for, and you need to explain your key customer segments. And from this, we need to think about the potential features our product may need to have, and also what benefits these should bring to the customer or the end user. So we've taken a hunch, we've used research to make the hunch stronger, we've generated ideas around the hunch, and then we've filtered these ideas to establish whether they are blue sky ideas or whether they need to be combined with other ideas to make them better. And also we've looked to test these ideas to see whether they're desirable, feasible and viable. Now at this stage, it can also be useful to build a quick and basic prototype which captures the meaning of your idea and also highlights some of the key features and benefits that the product offers. And there are numerous ways to build a quick prototype, such as simply drawing it freehand, using a computer-aided design package, or simply using scrap materials or even Lego. The important thing here is not that you build a perfect model or representation of your idea, rather it's about capturing the core meaning of the product. So you might want to consider building a basic prototype of your best idea if you think that this will help you to better understand the idea yourself, or if you think that it will help others to better understand the product. Okay, so now we're going to apply what we've learned in order to come up with a useful idea that we can develop into a credible feasibility plan as called for in the group assignment for this module. Now remember, you can start from scratch, or you can choose to develop one of the ideas around the exercise that you worked on in the example from the digital lecture. So first of all, we need to start by finding a hunch, and to do this, just start an online discussion in your work group, remembering where we can look for inspiration from. From this, we then need to cluster ideas around key themes like technology ideas or people ideas, or into wider themes such as leisure or food and drink. This will help us to focus in on a potential opportunity and will also allow us to sort our ideas to identify if some of these are potentially just features of the same idea. Next, we need to strengthen our hunch, and we can do this by carrying out some very basic research online or through observation. And again, the observation can also be done online. Now we need to decide which ideas are worth pursuing, and we should discard those ideas we feel simply aren't as good. So take your top 3 ideas and use the 2 filters from the digital lecture to determine if they are blue sky and also if they pass the triple test of desirability, feasibility and viability. And lastly, consider if you could develop a simple prototype of your idea to demonstrate to others and yourself that the idea is ultimately worth pursuing.